vyākhyāne upālambhaṃ kṛte śūnyatayā vadet sarvaṃ tasyānupālabdhaṃ samaṃ sādhyena jāyate samaṃ sādhyena jāyate.
vyākhyāne upālambhaṃ kṛte śūnyatayā vadet sarvaṃ tasyānupālabdhaṃ samaṃ sādhyena jāyate samaṃ sādhyena jāyate. MMK chapter 4 verse 9. Say that someone voices a villification where communication is being effected with emptiness. Everything seeming yet to be established becomes not villified by that voice. So the sense of a step from one phase to another is brought out by the fact that the wording of this verse exactly mirrors the wording of verse 8, except instead of vigrahe kṛte, where an argument is being made, we have vyākhyāne kṛte, where communication is being done, where communication is being effected. And vyākhyāne, as we discussed in the previous chapter, I think it appears twice in the previous chapter, describing the communication in the first instance of drashta, the one who looks. He says, so when there's an act, when you're looking, the one who looks is communicated in full, vyākhyāne, by the act of looking. So in other words, there's no need to write your book explaining in great detail how you've understood Buddhism. If you truly sit in zazen, drashta vyopashamam, realizing the cessation of the to be seen, realizing prapanchopashamam, the cessation of spinning things into self-existence, realizing there's no place to go and visit. What do you say here? Gantavyam navidyate. So somebody who Master Dogen described as furi sorin. Furi, not leaving. Sorin, the forest, or the vihara, the monastery. Someone who doesn't leave, spends his whole life not leaving the forest monastery. He or she is communicated in full, even if totally anonymous. That's the kind of monk Master Dogen revered. The ones in China that nobody had heard of. So vyākhyāne, translated in the previous chapter. So in the first instance, it's communication in full of drashta, the one who looks, not necessarily the one who sees, just the one who looks, I think. And then in the final verse, he talks about the act of listening being communicated in full by the act of seeing. So both the actor, the one who acts, and all actions are communicated in full by action itself, something like that. So vyākhyāne in the writings of Nagarjuna, following Ashvaghosha, does not mean just to explain. If you translate it as to explain, which the dictionary gives it as explain, but that's missing the deeper point. So again, the chapter 16 of Saundrananda by Ashvaghosha is Arya Satya Vyākhyāne, the communication by the Buddha of Arya Satya, the noble truths. And so that word vyākhyāne in that context also has meaning. It doesn't mean the Buddha explained it all. he couldn't, because he can't explain the true meaning of the Noble Truths in words. The Buddha communicated it. Ishin Denshin, with the mind is transmitted. Something like that. So that's what's being described in here, that kind of communication. Ishin Denshin. With the mind is transmitted. So that's the first difference. Instead of vigrahe kṛte, where an argument is being made, we've got vyākhyāne kṛte, where communication is being effected, or more a lot, where communication in full is being effected, because vyākhyāna suggests explaining chapter and verse in detail. So you could say where communication of the whole is being effected, but that would be a little bit gilding the lily, probably. So yeah, it's in the end, it's up to the reader to figure out the kind of step that's being suggested. I mean, that's part of the point of poetry, isn't it? The reader is left sort of like an explorer with his pick and shovel to get to the bottom of it himself. It's what's left unsaid, which makes the poetry challenging to dig out the real meaning of it. So I shouldn't over-explain too much in translation. So the other thing which is changed from the previous verse is in verse 8 you've got two words from the verbal root parihri, to refute or to turn away. So pariharam means a refutation, and aparihritam means not refuted. But in the verse 9, the verbal root is upālambhaṃ, and in the dictionary, upālambhaṃ is given as, in the first instance, to touch, but then to lay hold of, to seize a sacrificial animal in order to kill it, hence to kill, to slaughter, or, as in this context, to censure, reproach, revile, or scold. So revile seemed to fit quite well for our purposes here, but then the noun from revile, I guess, villification fits. So instead of refutation, you've got a villification. Apart from that, the grammar of the two verses is exactly the same. So, say that someone voices a villification. Ya upālambhaṃ vadet. So as previous verse, yaha is nominative singular masculine, but before upa, the visarga, the H with a dot underneath, I can never remember which is a visarga and which is visarga anusvara is the other one. I think anusvara is the M with the dot over the top. Anyway, that is dropped before the upa. So ya upālambhaṃ vadet. Say that someone voices a villification. Ya upālambhaṃ vadet. Where communication is being effected. Vyākhyāne kṛte. Again, locative absolute. Where something is happening. Vyākhyāne kṛte. Where communication is being effected. śūnyatayā. So for conformity with the previous verse, I translate using emptiness. But using doesn't quite fit here. I mean, there's merit obviously in mirroring the wording of the previous verse, but in the end I've gone with emptiness. So because in a philosophical discussion you use emptiness as I say, like David Hume used his wrecking ball of empiricism. But where communication is being effected, if you say using emptiness, it sounds a little bit exploitative or calculating. So I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Would you say using compassion or with compassion? I think it's utilising compassion. It's like, it sounds like you're using it as a tactic somewhat if you use that word, I thought. So I'm not sure how to translate it as using emptiness or with emptiness. In any case, the sentence is, say that someone voices a villification where communication is being effected with emptiness. And then in that case, everything, sarvaṃ, seeming yet to be established, samaṃ, sādhyena, as exactly in the previous verse, samaṃ, sādhyena, everything seems yet to be established. In other words, there's nothing established as a non-empty thing, in which case everything is immune to being vilified. So, an upālambhaṃ, not vilified. So, upālambhaṃ, vilified, an upālambhaṃ, not vilified. An upālambhaṃ. So, becomes jāyate, becomes not vilified, tasyānupālabdhaṃ, by that one, by that voice, in other words. I should probably put voice in square brackets to satisfy any pedants out there who'd worry about it. Sarvaṃ tasyānupālabdhaṃ samaṃ sādhyena jāyate. Everything seeming yet to be established becomes not vilified by that voice. And we heard in the recitation on bodhisvara.com, as sometimes happens, the ultimate pada is repeated. Samaṃ sādhyena jāyate. So it becomes like yet to be established. So I suspect, if I translated it more literally, the become would go with the becomes like, it becomes as if yet to be established, whereas I've translated becomes not vilified. So upālambhaṃ jāyate. In any case, I think if we understand the meaning of verse 8, then we can understand verse 9. It's an illustration, I think, of what is meant in verse 7 by kramaha, a step. And speaking of the meaning of villification, there's a chapter of Shobogenzo, which I can't remember which one it is, and haven't been bothered to look it up. It might be dotoku, which means expressing the truth, as in vyākhyāne in this verse, or I seem to remember it might have been the words of Master Joshu Jishin, and I think he said that, I think it's the part where he said that practice Zazen for 10, 15, 20 years, and if that doesn't cause you to, if that doesn't cause the penny to drop, I'm paraphrasing here from memory, then you can use my skull as a dipper for spreading piss on the fields. I remember that one. And so in the course of him saying that, I think it was Master Josh who said, you know, even the Buddhas can't do anything to you. So it's a sense of, if you really, I was going to say, see, it's so difficult to avoid non-empty, end-gaining kind of language, especially if you've been educated for the first 20 years of your life to think in that way. What does the verse say exactly? Where communication is being effected with emptiness. So that means you're practicing for the sake of enjoying practice. You're listening and looking and not grasping to be the one who hears and to be the one who sees. So Master Joshua is saying, if you practice for 10, 15, 20, 30 years like that, then even the Buddhas, you'll be immune to vilification, even by the Buddhas. He didn't use the word vilification. I think he said even the Buddhas won't be able to bother you or something like that. But the gist, I think, is the same. If we practice with emptiness, it's the indirectness that Marjorie Barlow talks of in relation to the Alexander technique. I wish I had a book here because I was reading that part yesterday. Yeah, she emphasises the indirectness. You see, it's the thinking educates the feeling, and the feeling educates the body. It's that way round. So there's a profound connection between what's described here as communication is being effected with emptiness. Vyākhyāne, kṛte, śūnyatayā. Communication is being effected with emptiness. That's the Buddha roaring the lion's roar. It's like when a lion roars, he's not doing it with an end in view, you know. He's not calculating what reward. He has no conception that the lion's roar is a cause, a non-empty cause, that might lead to a particular non-empty, self-existing effect. But that's how we think in our ignorance. That's what Alexander called end gaining. So end gaining is predicated on there being an end in view. And the obvious one in Buddhist practice is enlightenment. You know what Master Basso, in the koan with Master Basso, it's making a mirror. You know, making a mirror means getting the point, seeing what the Buddha really taught. Which see, again, there's no denial. The difficulty is, you see it clearly in Alexander work, when people misunderstand, then they're afraid of gaining any end. They just spend their whole life lying on their back giving directions and don't get round to ever doing anything if you misunderstand it. So not end gaining is not a negation of gaining the end. It's a negation of the idea of gaining an end. So like in swimming, my brother and my wife teach nervous swimmers not to be concerned about getting to the end of the pool. As people, when they're afraid, they think security exists when my hands grip the rail by the side of the pool. But so that's the end gaining mind. But once they learn that security exists in giving yourself to the water, which will then support you and you'll flow happily on it, then the end gaining mind abates. And when the person gradually learns how to swim, they're not the slightest bit worried about getting to the side. But that doesn't mean they never get to the side. They can get to the side and, you know, they can float about and explore the movement of a limb, and then, you know, feel the limb touching the side of the pool and do all those kind of explorations. So it's not a negation of gaining the end in the sense of getting to the other side of the pool. It's a negation of the idea that I've got to grasp my life depends on it. I've got to grasp that rail because that's where security is. So it just sprang into my mind the closing verse of chapter 24. It says, "Yapashyatidam, yapashyatidam sapashya." No, yapashyatidam sapashya. No, that's too many You have to have eight syllables in the pada. Pasyatidam sapasyati. So, here we go. Ya pratitya samutpadam pasyatidam sapasyati dukkam samudayam chaiva nirodham margam evacha. So it's so nice to learn these verses off by heart. You can refer back to them at any time if you can remember them. So, ya pratitya samutpadam, he who, dependent arising, pasyatidam sapasyati, sees, he who sees dependent arising, pasyatidam sapasyati, sees this. So, he who, he who sees dependent arising, ya pratitya samutpadam pasyati, he sees this, sa pasyati idam. So, ya pratitya samutpadam pasyati idam sa pasyati dukkam, suffering, samudayam chaiva, and samudaya, and accumulation, and production. Dukkam samudayam chaiva nirodham, cessation, margam, the way, evacha, and indeed. Ya pratitya samutpadam pasyatidam sapasyati dukkam samudayam chaiva nirodham margam evacha. He who sees dependent arising sees this, suffering, accumulation or production, cessation, and the way itself. So in that verse, the pasyati, probably better translated as seeing. In the end, that's what we want to. We want to understand the Four Noble Truths. We want to see them. So what's negated in the previous chapter, and in every verse really, including this business of communicating with emptiness. Perhaps we can say that if we look at the Four Noble Truths with emptiness, that's how we see them. But if we're in a big hurry to understand, then ironically enough, we're not looking at them. So emptiness, with emptiness, I venture to suggest, as a result of this exploration, might mean without end gaining. Hence again, anybody who wants to really understand or explore, I should say, anybody who's interested in exploring, I'm such a terrible end gainer. I reveal myself at every moment. That's why I had to come to the Alexander technique. Anybody who's interested in exploring further the deeper meaning of what Nagarjuna is saying, I would recommend them to seek out help from an experienced Alexander teacher. And I would add, with a note of skepticism, beware of body workers, because one thing that worried Marjorie Barlow towards the end of her life was the amount of body work that's going on in Alexander training courses. So body work is not empty. It's going for the physicality directly, whereas Marjorie's great emphasis was on thinking. She thought that thinking was Alexander's greatest discovery, second only to what he called inhibition. So those are the two principles that an experienced Alexander technique teacher will uphold: inhibition and direction. Whereas a less experienced teacher will be more interested will be too interested in what the body's experiencing. For Marjorie, she was clear that, you see, I was going to say this in relation to when the last time I spoke about Marjorie working with me on the table. She loved physicality. That was obvious. But only as the physicality that manifested itself as the indirect result of the saying no and the thinking. It struck me, see, I remember once she brought me up off the table. That was an exercise in inhibition and direction. She would hold my head and say, now I want you to, in a minute, I want you to bend your knees. I knew that meant when I bent my knees, even though I was 13 stone, whatever, she was going to, with her hands, whip me up into the sitting position. So of course, she was in her 80s, frail old lady, and so you worried as a big bloke, well, how's she going to manage that? Do I need to help her? But I knew from experience that my job was to say no to that kind of thinking. No, I don't have to. Just as usual, the job of the pupil is to leave himself or herself in the hands of the teacher. So Marjorie would give me the stim and say, no, say no, say no. Oh, she had to remind me, because just like a dog straining at the leash, you're ready to do something. Let the neck be free, let the head go forward and up, or sometimes if you're lying on the table, you'd say forward and out, because up is where your knees are pointing, back to lengthen and widen, knees up to the ceiling. And then at some point, she'd make it clear that she was going for it. So bend your knees now. And on the end of now, you would bend your knees. She'd whip you up. So you're sitting at the table. But I remember once doing that, she kind of sort of patted me between the shoulder blades, or rubbed between my shoulder blades. Look at you, she was like she was admiring a sort of a prize bull or something, because my back was widened out, you see. So Marjorie was interested in anybody in physicality. I'm not talking about sexual physicality. I'm just talking about it was an old lady kind of admiring the physicality of a young bloke. It was that kind of thing. But it was physicality, it was conspicuously she was enjoying the physicality of the moment. But only as a result of a lot of work saying no and getting muscles that were contracted to release so that the back actually widened. So I'm trying to illustrate what I think it means by vyākhyāne, kṛte, śūnyatayā, where communication is being affected with emptiness. You say that you could equally describe what happens in the swimming pool or in the water when my brother and my wife teach the Alexander principles to people in the water. All the fears and end-gaining conceptions of the person who was a non-swimmer or nervous swimmer, sort of can't. The work is immune to all those kind of conceptions. So things that were conceived as being threatening and to be worried about, where emptiness prevails, they're not a worry anymore. So if you have a conception, I can't swim, I've got to get to the side, and then someone teaches you, you don't have to swim, just don't do anything, and you'll find the water supports you, you can float in the warm water happily, then it's like everything seeming yet to be established. It's like what was previously the aluminium rail, or the stainless steel rail by the poolside, it was previously established as security, safety. But the prevailing of emptiness in that situation is not something that's changed intellectually, but it's how the previously fearful person conceives the world. The rail no longer represents certain safety. I haven't explained it very well, but on that note I shall give up. Vyākhyāne upālambhaṃ kṛte śūnyatayā vadet sarvaṃ tasyānupālabdhaṃ samaṃ sādhyena jāyate. Say that someone voices a villification where communication is being effected with emptiness. Everything, seeming yet to be established, becomes not villified by that voice.
vyākhyāne upālambhaṃ kṛte śūnyatayā vadet sarvaṃ tasyānupālabdhaṃ samaṃ sādhyena jāyate samaṃ sādhyena jāyate.